For 200 years, humans were known across the galaxy as the kind ones, the helpful ones, the ones who would rather talk than fight. Other species called them the courteous ones, and sometimes they said it with respect, and sometimes they said it with a little laugh. But everyone agreed on one thing. If you needed someone to solve a problem without blood, you called the humans. King Doyen had spent his whole life believing in this idea. As Secretary General of Earth's Unified Council, he had ended 17 wars through nothing but words. He had sat across the table from warlords and dictators and monsters, and he had found a way to make peace every single time. His white hair and gentle smile were famous across 1,000 worlds. When he spoke, even the most violent species listened. His daughter, Park Yuna, worked at the Galactic Assembly's embassy on Earth. She was a xenolinguist, someone who studied alien languages. She had her father's kind eyes and her mother's sharp mind. Every morning, she would call her father, and they would talk about small things. The weather, her work, his meetings. They never said, "I love you," at the end of these calls. They didn't need to. They both knew. Admiral Choi Tai-woo was a different kind of man. He commanded Earth's defense fleet, though fleet was a generous word for the 200 small ships under his control. For years, he had asked the Council for more ships, more weapons, more soldiers. And for years, they had said no. "We don't need weapons," they told him. "We have diplomacy." Tai-woo would shake his head and say nothing. He had seen the galaxy. He knew that not everyone wanted peace. Some species only understood strength. But no one listened to him. Earth was too busy being courteous. The message came on a Tuesday morning. The Volrath Dominion, a powerful reptilian empire, was facing a crisis. Their homeworld's ecosystem was collapsing. Billions would die without immediate help. They were asking Earth for humanitarian aid. Do-hyun read the message 3 times. The Volrath had never asked anyone for help before. They were proud warriors, cold and calculating. Something must be truly wrong for them to reach out. Admiral Tai-woo stood in the council chamber, his face hard. "This is a trap," he said. "The Volrath don't ask for help. They take what they want. Something is wrong here." Do-hyun looked at him with patient eyes. "Admiral, if we refuse to help a dying world because we are afraid, then what are we? We have always helped those in need. That is who we are. Send armed escorts then. Protect our ships." Armed ships would send the wrong message. The Volrath asked for help, not a show of force. "We will send humanitarian vessels, unarmed, as a gesture of trust." Tai-woo wanted to argue, but he could see the decision was already made. The council nodded along with Do-hyun. Peace, trust, courtesy. These were the words that guided humanity. Yuna called her father that evening. "I heard about the Volrath mission," she said. "Are you worried?" Do-hyun smiled into the screen. "A little. But helping others is never wrong, my dear. Even when it is frightening. I'm proud of you, Father. And I am proud of you always." They ended the call. Neither of them said goodbye. 3 days later, Earth's humanitarian fleet entered Volrath space. 50 ships carrying food, medicine, and engineers. No weapons. No shields. Just help offered freely. And while the galaxy watched this act of kindness, no one noticed the second Volrath fleet. 200 warships, hidden in the darkness between stars, moving silently toward Earth. They arrived at dawn. Yuna was at the embassy when the sky turned red. She ran to the window and saw fire falling from above. The Volrath ships filled the sky like angry insects, and they were shooting at everything. Buildings exploded. Streets turned to rivers of flame. People ran and screamed and died. She tried to call her father. The connection would not go through. In Seoul, Do-hyun stood in the council chamber, watching the destruction on a dozen screens. His face showed nothing. His hands did not shake. But something inside him was breaking, piece by piece. "How many ships?" he asked quietly. 200, an aide answered. "Maybe more. Our fleet is engaging, but—" The aide's voice cracked. "Admiral Taiwu says we cannot hold them." The bombing lasted 6 hours. When it was over, 12 of Earth's greatest cities were gone. Seoul, New York, Tokyo, London, Beijing, Mumbai, Snow, Polo, Lagos, Cairo, Sydney, Berlin, Paris. 2,300,000,000 people died in 6 hours. It was the largest massacre in human history. The Vorath broadcast a message to the entire galaxy. Their commander, a scarred reptile named Gorax, spoke with a voice like grinding stones. For too long, the galaxy has listened to human weakness. Their talk of peace. Their pathetic courtesy. Today, we show the truth. The courteous ones make excellent victims. Let this be a lesson. The strong take. The weak die. This is the natural order. The message played on every screen, in every home, on every world. Do-hyun watched it in silence. Then he stood up and walked out of the council chamber. No one tried to stop him. No one knew what to say. He walked through the ruined streets of Seoul. The air was thick with smoke and the smell of burning. Bodies lay everywhere. Some were soldiers. Most were not. He saw children's shoes in the rubble. He saw a mother holding an infant, both of them still, both of them gone. He walked until he reached the remains of the embassy district. The building where Yuna worked was just rubble now. Rescue workers were digging through the debris, but Do-hyun already knew. He could feel it in his chest, a cold emptiness where his heart used to be. One of the workers approached him. In his hand was an identification badge, burned at the edges but still readable. Park Yuna, Xenolinguist, Galactic Assembly Embassy. Do-hyun took the badge. He held it gently, as if it might break. He stood there for a long time. The rescue workers kept digging. The fires kept burning. The sky was gray with ash. People would later say that Kim Do-hyun cried that day. But they were wrong. His eyes stayed dry. His face stayed calm. What happened inside him was not grief. It was something else. Something colder. He looked up at the gray sky, where Velrith ships had filled the air just hours before. He thought about his daughter's voice. He thought about her last words to him. "I'm proud of you, Father." He thought about every war he had stopped, every hand he had shaken, every act of kindness humanity had offered to a galaxy that had just watched them burn. Then Kim Do-hyun turned and walked back toward the council chamber. His steps were slow but steady. His eyes were empty but focused. Behind him, the ruins of Seoul smoldered under the falling ash. Humanity had been courteous for 200 years. That was about to change. No diplomatic messages. No trade agreements. No humanitarian missions. No calls for peace. The humans, who had once been everywhere, were suddenly nowhere. Their communication channels went dark. Their ambassadors returned home. Their ships disappeared from every port dot at the Galactic Assembly. Representatives whispered to each other in confused voices. What were the humans doing? Were they broken? Were they hiding? Were they dying? The Vorath laughed at these questions. Commander Gorax gave interviews where he mocked humanity's silence. "They are cowards," he said, showing his sharp teeth in what his species called a smile. "We killed their people, and they do nothing. They hide on their little planet and cry. This is the true nature of the courteous ones. Weak, soft, pathetic." But Gorax was wrong. Humanity was not crying. Humanity was working, deep beneath the surface of Earth, In bunkers that had never been used, Secretary General Kim Do-yoon oversaw the transformation of his entire species. He no longer smiled. He no longer gave speeches about peace. When he spoke now, his voice was flat and cold, and people listened with fear in their eyes. Every factory, he ordered. Every laboratory. Every resource. Everything changes. Now. And it did. Lee Ji-won was the chief engineer of Earth's emergency military program. She was a small woman with tired eyes and brilliant mind. For 20 years, she had worked on theoretical weapons. Technologies that humanity had imagined but never built because they seemed too cruel. Too dangerous, too inhuman. Now, Do-hyun stood in her laboratory, looking at designs that would make the galaxy tremble. Can you build them? Yes. Ji-won hesitated. These weapons were never meant to be real. They were just ideas. Nightmares, really. If we build them, can you build them? She looked at the designs. Particle destabilizers that could unmake matter at the atomic level. Gravity bombs that could crush entire fleets into balls of metal. Signal weapons that could turn enemy ships against each other. Each one was terrible. Each one was effective. Yes, she said quietly. I can build them. Then do it. In another part of the bunker, Baek Soo-min ran Earth's intelligence operations. She was a thin woman with sharp eyes and no patience for fools. Before the massacre, she had gathered information for diplomatic purposes, learning secrets to help negotiations. Now, she gathered information for a different reason. The Volrath are not alone, she reported to Do-hyun. We have evidence that 3 other species helped them plan the attack. They provided intelligence about Earth's defenses. They told the Volrath when our fleet would be gone. They wanted us destroyed. Do-hyun's face showed no surprise. Names. Soo-min gave him a datapad. On it were 3 species: the Tauric Collective, the Endless Assembly of Varn, and the Merchant Houses of Krix. All 3 were members of the Galactic Assembly. All 3 had smiled at human diplomats while planning human death. Keep watching them, Do-hyun said. Learn everything. When the time comes, they will answer for this. On the surface, Admiral Choi Tai-woo trained soldiers. Not the small defense force he had commanded before, but something new. Millions of volunteers came forward every day, more than they could accept. Men and women who had lost families, children, homes. They wanted to fight. They wanted revenge. Tai-woo organized them into units. He trained them in tactics that humanity had never used before. Tactics designed not for defense, but for total war. His instructors taught hand-to-hand combat that was fast and brutal. His strategists planned operations that left no enemy alive. Among the new soldiers was a young man named Han Min-ho. He was 23 years old. 3 months ago, he had been a university student studying art history. Then the Volrath came. His mother died in the bombing. His father died trying to save her. His younger sister died in the hospital, burned too badly to survive. His nephew, only 4 years old, was never found. Now Min-ho stood in formation with 10,000 other soldiers, learning to kill. Why did you join? Another soldier asked him one night. Min-ho thought about his family. He thought about his sister's laugh. He thought about his nephew's small hands reaching up to be held. Because someone has to remember them, he said. And someone has to make sure it never happens again. The Galactic Assembly sent diplomats to Earth after 3 months of silence. They wanted to know what humanity was doing. They wanted to offer assistance and mediation. The diplomats landed in what remained of Geneva. They were met by armed guards who said nothing and escorted them to a gray building with no windows. Inside, they waited for 3 hours before anyone spoke to them. When someone finally came, it was a young aide with a datapad. He did not smile. He did not offer refreshments. He simply read a statement. Earth is not accepting diplomatic visits at this time. All trade agreements are suspended. All humanitarian programs are ended. The Galactic Assembly's role in Earth's affairs is terminated. You may leave now. The chief diplomat, a tall being from a neutral world, tried to object. But the Assembly wants to help. We want to mediate between Earth and the Volrith. We want to find a peaceful solution. The aide looked at him with empty eyes. A peaceful solution. 2 billion of us are dead. Where was the Assembly's peace then? Where were the mediators when the Volrith burned our children? The diplomat had no answer. Go back to your assembly, the aide said. Tell them that Earth is busy. Tell them that when we are ready to speak, they will hear us. The diplomats left. When they returned to the assembly, their reports caused panic. Earth was changing, they said. The humans they met were not the kind, gentle people they remembered. Something had broken inside humanity. Something cold had taken its place. Commander Gorax heard these reports and laughed again. Let the humans play at war, he said. They were still soft. They would never match the Volrith's strength. But in Earth's orbit, something was taking shape. Ships unlike anything the galaxy had seen. Dark hulls. Sharp angles. No markings. No names. Just cold metal and terrible purpose. Liji One stood in her laboratory window, watching the construction. Her weapons were being installed in those ships. Her nightmares were becoming real. She wondered if she was doing the right thing. Then she remembered the images from the bombing. The children's shoes. The burning hospitals. The bodies piled in the streets. She went back to work. In his underground office, Kim Do-hyun received daily reports. Fleet construction was ahead of schedule. Weapon testing was successful. Troop training was complete. Intelligence gathering continued. Everything was ready. He held his daughter's identification badge in his hand. He had not let it go for 3 months. He slept with it. He ate with it. He made decisions that would shape the galaxy's future with it pressed against his palm. A communication officer approached him. Sir, we're receiving signals from the Volrith. They're demanding we respond to their victory. They want us to surrender formally. Do-hyun looked at the badge. He thought of Yuna's voice. Her last words. Her pride in him. Send them nothing, he said. But prepare a broadcast for the entire galaxy. It is time for Earth to speak again. The broadcast went out the next day. Every world, every species, every corner of the galaxy received the same message. Kim Do-hyun appeared on screens everywhere, standing in front of Earth's flag. He spoke in a voice that carried no emotion. No warmth, no courtesy. 3 months ago, the Volrith Dominion murdered 2 billion human beings. They called us weak. They called us soft. They called us victims. He paused. The galaxy held its breath. We showed you courtesy. We offered you peace. We gave you kindness. And you answered with fire. His eyes were cold as space itself. There will be no more courtesy. There will be no more negotiations. There will be no more mercy. The Volrith wish to teach the galaxy a lesson about strength. We have learned that lesson. Now it is our turn to teach. The broadcast ended. The galaxy stared at empty screens in silence, and in Earth's orbit, 3,000 warships began to move toward Volrith space. The courteous ones were coming, and they were no longer courteous. The Volrith homeworld was called Verith Prime. It was a hot planet covered in red deserts and dark oceans. For 1,000 years, the Volrith had conquered their neighbors from this world. They believed they were the strongest species in the galaxy. They had never lost a war. Commander Gorax stood on the bridge of his flagship, looking at reports from his scouts. The humans were coming, they said. 3,000 ships, moving fast. Gorax laughed. The Volrith had 8,000 ships defending their home system. The humans were outnumbered almost 3-1. This would not be a battle. It would be a slaughter. Let them come, he told his officers. The courteous ones wish to die with honor. We will give them death, but there is no honor for the weak. His officers laughed with him. They'd all seen the human fleet that tried to defend Earth. Small ships. Old technology. Easy targets. The humans had built more ships, yes, but ships were nothing without the heart to use them. The human fleet arrived at the edge of the Velrith system at exactly midnight Velrith time. They emerged from faster-than-light travel in perfect formation. 3,000 ships arranged in a pattern so precise it looked like a mathematical equation made of metal. Admiral Choi Tai-woo stood on the bridge of the command ship, watching the enemy positions on his tactical display. 8,000 Velrith vessels, defense platforms, orbital stations, ground-based weapons on every moon and planet. His aide looked nervous. Sir, they outnumber us significantly. Our analysts suggest a different approach. Perhaps we could... No. Tai-woo's voice was calm. We did not come here to win carefully. We came here to make them understand. He opened a channel to the entire fleet. Every human ship heard his voice. Today, we answer the massacre. Today, we show the galaxy what happens when humanity stops being kind. I do not ask you to fight bravely. I ask you to fight without mercy. The Velrith gave us none. We will give them the same. On every ship, soldiers checked their weapons. Engineers powered up systems that had never been used in real combat. Pilots gripped their controls with steady hands. They had all lost someone. They all remembered why they were here. Captain Kang Hyunji commanded the flagship Remembrance. It was the largest ship ever built by human hands, a dark mountain of metal and weapons named for what it carried in its heart. Hyunji had commanded a small patrol vessel before the massacre. Her husband had been a teacher in Seoul. Her son had been 7 years old. She opened communications with the Velrith fleet. Her voice was clear and cold. This is Captain Kang Hyunji of the Earth vessel Remembrance. I speak to Commander Gorax. There was a pause. Then Gorax's scarred face appeared on screen. He was smiling, showing all his teeth. The humans have come to beg, he said. How amusing. You may surrender now, and I will make your deaths quick. Hyunji's face showed nothing. 6 months ago, you killed my husband. You killed my son. You killed 2 billion of my people. You called us victims. You called us weak. Gorax leaned forward. Yes, I was right. Look around you, human. My ships outnumber yours. My warriors have fought for generations. You are cattle walking into a slaughterhouse. No, Hyunji said. This is not a negotiation. This is a lesson. She ended the communication. Then she gave one order. Begin. What happened next would be studied for centuries. Military academies across the galaxy would analyze every moment, every tactic, every weapon. And they would all reach the same conclusion. Humanity had spent 3 months doing nothing but preparing for this exact battle. Every Velrith formation had been studied. Every weakness had been identified. Every possible response had been planned for. The human fleet did not charge forward like traditional warriors. Instead, they split into hundreds of small groups, each one moving with perfect coordination. The Velrith tried to form defensive lines, but the humans were too fast, too unpredictable. They appeared in unexpected places, fired devastating weapons, and vanished before the Velrith could respond. Lee Ji-won's nightmares had become real. Particle destabilizers tore through Velrith armor like it was paper. Gravity bombs crushed entire squadrons into twisted metal. Signal weapons turned Velrith ships against each other, creating chaos in their own ranks. Commander Gorax shouted orders, but nothing worked. His ships were dying by the hundreds. His carefully planned defenses were falling apart. How is this possible? He screamed. They are humans. They are the courteous ones. An officer stumbled to his side, blood running from a wound on his head. Commander, our eastern fleet is destroyed. Our western fleet reports 90% losses. The orbital platforms are offline. We cannot. A blast shook the ship. Alarms screamed. More officers fell. On the human side, Specialist Oh Jun-ho handled communications. His job was to deliver messages to the Vareth, and he did it with terrible efficiency. Velrith vessel Stormclaw, this is your only warning. Surrender or be destroyed. The Stormclaw tried to run. It lasted 4 seconds. Velrith Defense Platform 7. Lower your shields and prepare for boarding. Platform 7 refused. It became Gust. Velrith Fleet Commander, your forces are failing. Surrender now and save your people. No surrender came. The dying continued. 4 hours after the battle began, it was over. 8,000 Velrith ships were gone. Some had surrendered in the end, when they realized they could not win. Most had not. The space around Vareth Prime was filled with debris, a graveyard of twisted metal and frozen bodies. Admiral Taiwu looked at the tactical display. The enemy fleet was destroyed. The orbital defenses were silent. Nothing stood between humanity and the Vareth homeworld. He opened a channel to the planet below. People of Vareth Prime, this is Admiral Choi Taiwu of the Earth Defense Force. Your fleet is destroyed. Your defenses are gone. You have no more ships, no more stations, no more hope of military victory. On the planet's surface, billions of Velrith watched their screens in shock. They had never lost. They had never imagined losing. This was impossible. Taiwu continued. We have come with a demand. Every individual responsible for the Earth massacre must be surrendered to us. Every commander, every officer, every official who planned or approved the attack. You have 12 hours. He paused, and his voice grew colder. For every hour of delay, we will destroy one of your cities. Not military targets, cities, homes, families. The same things you took from us. The channel closed. The clock started. On Vareth Prime, panic spread. Leaders argued. Military officers blamed each other. Some said to fight to the death. Others said to surrender. Hour 1 passed. The humans waited. Hour 2 passed. Still no response from the Velrith government. At hour 2 and 10 minutes, Admiral Taiwu gave a single nod. A beam of light fell from the sky and struck a Velrith city called Korin. 200,000 people lived there. When the light faded, nothing remained but glass and ash. Now the Velrith understood. The humans were not bluffing. The humans were not negotiating. The humans were teaching a lesson, and the lesson was written in fire. At hour 3, the first surrenders began. Officers turned themselves in. Commanders were dragged from their homes by their own people. Government officials who had voted for the attack were carried to human landing ships by crowds of angry Velrith citizens. Commander Gorax tried to hide. He dressed as a common worker and attempted to escape the capital. But the Velrith people knew his face. They had celebrated him as a hero. Now they saw him as the reason their world was burning. They caught him in an alley. They beat him until he could not walk. Then they carried him to the human soldiers and threw him at their feet. Captain Kang Yunji came to see him personally. She stood over his broken body, looking down with empty eyes. Gorax looked up at her, blood dripping from his mouth. What will you do to me? Yunji thought of her husband. Her son, 2 billion dead. You wanted to teach us about strength, she said. You wanted to show the galaxy that kindness is weakness. You were wrong. She knelt down until her face was close to his. Kindness is a choice. We chose to be kind because we were strong enough to choose. And now we choose something different. You will live, Commander. You will live so you can tell everyone what happens when humans stop being courteous. Gorax was taken away. The surrenders continued. By hour 8, every person on humanity's list had been captured. Earth had given the first lesson. The galaxy would not forget. 1 year after the massacre, the Volrath Dominion no longer existed. It was not conquered. It was not occupied. It was dismantled, piece by piece, with cold efficiency. The Volrath military was dissolved. Their government was removed. Their empire, which had lasted 1,000 years, was broken into a dozen smaller regions, each one watched by human forces. The Volrath people still lived. They still worked and raised families and went about their daily lives. But they did so under human supervision, following human rules, paying for the crimes of their leaders. The galaxy watched all of this with growing fear. At the Galactic Assembly, representatives gathered in nervous groups, whispering about what they had seen. The humans they had known for 2 centuries were gone. In their place was something new, something dangerous, something that had crushed the most powerful military in the galaxy in a matter of hours. Ambassador Shin Haiying arrived at the assembly on a gray morning. She was Earth's new representative, chosen personally by President Kim Do-hyun. She was young for a diplomat, only 40 years old, with sharp eyes and a face that rarely smiled. Before the massacre, she had been a trade negotiator, known for her fair deals and honest manner. Now she was known for something else: complete, unwavering loyalty to humanity's new path. She walked into the assembly chamber like she owned it. Her steps echoed in the silence. Representatives from 100 worlds watched her with fear and curiosity. She took her place at the human podium, looked out at the gathered aliens, and began to speak. For 2 centuries, humanity served this assembly. We mediated your wars. We healed your wounded. We fed your hungry. We asked nothing in return except friendship and peace. Her voice was calm, but there was steel underneath it. And what did we receive? We received mockery. We received contempt. We were called the courteous ones, as if kindness was a weakness. And when the Velrath came to murder us, you did nothing. Some of you even helped them. Gasps filled the chamber. Representatives looked at each other with wide eyes. Haiying held up a datapad. I have evidence that 3 species in this chamber provided intelligence to the Volrath before their attack. They told the Velrath when our fleet would be gone. They helped plan the massacre. They wanted us dead. She read the names: the Tauric Collective, the Endless Assembly of Varn, the Merchant Houses of Krix. Representatives from those species jumped to their feet, shouting denials, demanding proof. Haiying simply pressed a button on her datapad. Screens throughout the chamber lit up with recordings, documents, communications. Tauric officials discussing human weak points. Varn ambassadors promising to look away during the attack. Krix merchants selling information about Earth's defenses. The evidence was overwhelming. The denial stopped. The chamber fell silent. We are not here to declare war on these species, Haiying said. War is too kind. Instead, we release this information to the galaxy. Let your own people judge you. Let your allies abandon you. Let your governments fall. And they did. Within weeks, the governments of all 3 species collapsed. Their citizens, horrified by what their leaders had done, overthrew them. New governments formed, desperate to prove they were different, eager to apologize to humanity. But humanity was not interested in apologies. On Earth, President Kim Do-hyun watched the galaxy's chaos from his office in what remained of Seoul. The city was being rebuilt. Slowly, but the scars would never fully heal. He kept his daughter's badge on his desk, next to a list of names. 2,300,000,000 names. He had read everyone. General Beek Suman entered his office with a report. She had been promoted after the war, given command of Earth's intelligence operations across the galaxy. A network of spies and informants reached everywhere now. Nothing happened without her knowing. "The Assembly is in turmoil," she said. "3 governments have fallen. 5 more are unstable. Everyone is afraid of what we will do next." Dawn nodded slowly. "Good. Let them be afraid. Fear will keep them honest. Sir, some are saying we have gone too far, that we are becoming what we fought." He looked at her with empty eyes. "We gave them kindness for 200 years. They repaid us with murder. If fear is what they understand, then fear is what they will receive." Suman hesitated, then left. She had known Doyen before the massacre. He had been a gentle man, a kind man, a man who believed in the best of all species. That man was dead now. What remained was something harder, colder, more focused. She wondered sometimes if that was a good thing or a terrible thing. She had stopped being able to tell the difference. In another part of Earth, Han Minho stood in a memorial garden. It was built on the site where his family's apartment building had stood. Now there were trees and flowers and a wall of names. He found his mother's name, his father's name, his sister's name, his nephew's name. He had fought in the Battle of Vareth Prime. He had killed many Velrith. He had been promoted to commander for his bravery. He was called a hero now, a symbol of human strength. He did not feel like a hero. He felt empty. A younger soldier approached him. "Commander Han? Is everything all right?" Minho looked at his family's names for a long moment. "When I joined the military, I thought revenge would make me feel better. I thought killing the Velrith would bring them back somehow. But it didn't. They're still gone. I'm still here. And nothing feels right anymore." The younger soldier didn't know what to say. Neither did Minho. Back at the Galactic Assembly, Ambassador Hyung finished her speech. She looked out at the frightened faces of 100 worlds and spoke her final words. "Humanity has learned a lesson this year. We learned that kindness without strength is an invitation to cruelty. We learned that trust must be earned, not given freely. We learned that some species only understand force." She paused, letting her words sink in. "So here is humanity's new promise to this assembly. We will continue to trade with you. We will continue to work with you. We may even continue to help you if you prove worthy of help. But we will never again be defenseless. We will never again be trusting. And if any species, any government, any individual harms humanity again," her eyes swept across the chamber, cold and hard, "what we did to the Velrith will seem gentle in comparison. We burned their empire in a day. Imagine what we could do in a week, in a month, in a year." She stepped back from the podium. "The humans you knew are gone. We were courteous once. We are not courteous anymore. Remember that. Teach it to your children. Write it in your histories. Because we will not give this warning twice." She walked out of the chamber. No one tried to stop her. No one said a word. That evening, across the galaxy, diplomatic files were updated. Next to humanity, someone added a new note. "Do not mistake courtesy for weakness. Do not confuse kindness with inability." The galaxy had learned its lesson, but humanity was still learning what it had become. In his office, President Doyen held his daughter's badge and stared out at the half-rebuilt city. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of red and gold. "Are you proud of me now, Yuna?" he whispered to the empty room. "Is this what you would have wanted?" There was no answer. There never would be. The badge was warm in his hand. The names on his desk glowed in the fading light. And somewhere in the galaxy, 100 worlds were learning to fear the species they had once laughed at, the courteous ones. or gone. Something else had taken their place. 5 years had passed since the massacre. The galaxy was different now, quieter, more careful. Species that had once fought wars over small insults now solved their problems with words. No one wanted to attract human attention. No one wanted to be the next Vorath. Humanity had a new name now. They were called the Quiet Ones. Other species said it with respect, sometimes with fear, sometimes with something close to admiration. Because everyone understood what the name meant. When humans went quiet, when they stopped talking and started preparing, terrible things followed. But something strange was happening. Even as the galaxy feared them, humans were still humans. Aid ships still flew to worlds in need. Doctors still treated alien patients. Teachers still shared human knowledge. The kindness was still there, wrapped in strength, protected by warships, but still real. Admiral Kang Yunji commanded Earth's permanent patrol fleet now. Her ships traveled the galaxy, watching, waiting, protecting. She had changed in 5 years. The cold emptiness in her eyes had softened slightly. She still missed her husband. She still dreamed of her son. But she had found a new purpose, making sure no one else lost what she had lost. Her fleet received a message one morning. A distant world called Kareth had suffered a natural disaster. Earthquakes had destroyed their largest city. Millions were homeless. They were asking for help. Some of Yunji's officers were suspicious. It could be a trap, one said. Like what the Velrith did. Yunji shook her head. The Vorath taught us to be careful, not to be cruel. Send scouts first. Check the situation. If it's real, we help. If it's a trap, we respond accordingly. The scouts returned with confirmation. The disaster was real. The suffering was genuine. There was no trap, just people in pain who needed assistance. Yunji authorized the aid mission. Medical ships launched from Earth, carrying doctors and supplies and hope. And alongside them flew warships, silent and watchful, making sure no one would ever take advantage of human kindness again. On Kareth, survivors watched the human fleet arrive. They saw the medical ships landing, saw the doctors rushing out to help. And they saw the warships hovering above, dark shapes against the sky. One Kareth child asked her mother, "Are those the humans? Are they the scary ones?" Her mother looked at the doctor, treating her wounds, then at the warship above. "They are both," she said. "They are kind, and they are strong. That is why the galaxy respects them now." Back on Earth, President Kim Do-yoon was older now. His hair had gone completely white. His face was lined with years and worries. He still kept his daughter's badge on his desk. He still read the list of names every morning. But something in him had started to question. He visited the Seoul Memorial often. It was the largest monument on Earth, a wall of black stone stretching for kilometers, covered with the names of 2 billion dead. People came from across the galaxy to see it, to understand what had happened, to remember. Do-hyun walked along the wall, reading names he had read 1,000 times. He stopped at a familiar spot. Park Yuna, Xenolinguist, Galactic Assembly Embassy. Did we do the right thing? He asked the name. Did we become what we hated? A voice answered from behind him. It was young, female, uncertain. I think about that question every day. Do-hyun turned. A young woman stood there, maybe 20 years old, with dark hair and serious eyes. She wore the uniform of a diplomatic trainee. "I'm sorry," she said. "I didn't mean to interrupt. I come here sometimes. To think. What is your name?" "You, Sulji. My parents died in the massacre. I was 15. Do-hyun nodded slowly. I lost my daughter. She was a xenolinguist. They stood in silence for a moment. Two people connected by loss. looking at a wall of names. Why did you become a diplomat? Do-hyun asked. Sulji took a long breath. After my parents died, I wanted to hate everyone. Every alien species, every Velroth, everyone who wasn't human. I trained to be a soldier. I wanted revenge. What changed? I met a Velroth child in the resettlement camps after the war. She was 6 years old. Her parents had died in the bombardment of Corin. She was scared and alone, and she didn't understand why her world had been destroyed. Sulji's voice grew soft. She looked at me with those big eyes, and she asked if I was going to hurt her. And I realized she was just a child, like I had been. She didn't choose the massacre. She didn't hate humans. She was just scared. Do-hyun listened in silence. That's when I decided, Sulji continued. I didn't want to fight anymore. I wanted to build something. I wanted to be a diplomat, like Earth used to be. But different. I wanted them to know that when we offer kindness, it's not because we're weak. It's because we're strong enough to choose it. Do-hyun looked at her for a long time. Then, for the first time in 5 years, he smiled. It was small, barely there, but real. You sound like my daughter, he said. In another part of Earth, director Han Minho ran a program for war orphans. Not just human orphans, but children from every species affected by the wars humanity had fought. He had started it 2 years ago, using his military salary and whatever donations he could gather. Some people called him a traitor for helping Velroth children. He didn't care. He had seen enough death. He had caused enough death. Now he wanted to do something else. A Velroth boy approached him one afternoon. The boy was 8 years old, with scales still soft from youth. Director Han? Why do you help us? We are Velroth. Your people hate us. Minho knelt down to the boy's level. My family was killed by Velroth soldiers. For a long time, I hated all Velroth. I wanted to hurt every one of you. The boy flinched. But then I realized something. You didn't kill my family. You weren't even born when it happened. Hating you wouldn't bring them back. It would just make more orphans like us. He put a hand on the boy's shoulder. Strength isn't just about fighting. It's about choosing when not to fight. It's about breaking the cycle of pain. That's what I'm trying to do here. The boy didn't fully understand. But he nodded and went back to playing with the other children, Velroth and human and a dozen other species, all together. At the Galactic Assembly, Yu Sulji gave her first address as a junior diplomat. The chamber was full. Representatives from 100 worlds had come to hear humanity's youngest diplomat speak. They remembered the last time a human had stood at that podium. They remembered the threats. They remembered the fear. But Sulji's voice was different. Calm, yes. Strong, yes. But there was something else underneath. Something warmer. Humanity learned a terrible lesson 5 years ago, she said. We learned that kindness without strength is an invitation to cruelty. But we also learned something else. We learned that strength without kindness makes us no better than those who hurt us. She looked out at the representatives, seeing fear in some eyes, curiosity in others. My parents died in the massacre. I spent years hating all of you. I trained for revenge. I wanted to make the galaxy burn. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. But hate is exhausting. And revenge is empty. I know, because I have felt both. They don't heal anything. They just spread the pain. She straightened her shoulders. So here is humanity's new promise. We will help you. We will heal you. We will stand beside you in times of crisis. Our medical ships will fly to your worlds. Our teachers will share our knowledge. Our builders will help you grow. A pause. The chamber was completely silent. But if you mistake our kindness for weakness, if you think our open hand means we cannot fight, Then you will learn what the Volrath learned. We ended their empire in a day. We could do the same to any of you. We choose not to because we are strong enough to make that choice." She smiled, and this time it reached her eyes. "We are humanity. We are still courteous, but we will never again be victims. Our kindness is a gift, not a weakness. Our mercy is a choice, not an obligation. And our strength will always be ready, watching, waiting." She stepped back from the podium. "Remember this. Teach it to your children. Write it in your histories. Humanity offers one hand in friendship and keeps the other ready for war. It is up to you which hand you receive." The chamber erupted in applause. Not the nervous applause of fear, but something genuine, something respectful. In Earth's orbit, Admiral Yunji received the broadcast. She watched Solji's speech with something like hope in her heart. In the orphanage, Director Minho gathered the children to watch. Human and Velrath children sat together, seeing a future where they didn't have to be enemies. At the Seoul Memorial, President Do-hyun stood before his daughter's name. He had watched Solji's speech on his tablet. Now he placed his hand on the cold stone. "Maybe we did become something else," he said softly. "But maybe we're still becoming. Maybe we can be strong and kind. Maybe we can protect ourselves without losing ourselves." He looked at the sky, where human warships patrolled alongside aid vessels, where strength and kindness flew together. "I think you would like her, Yuna. I think you would be proud." For the first time in 5 years, Kim Do-hyun felt something like peace. The galaxy was different now. Humanity was different. But perhaps that wasn't entirely a bad thing. Perhaps strength and kindness could exist together. Perhaps the best protection was being so powerful that no one dared attack, while still being gentle enough to help those in need. The courteous ones were gone, but something better had taken their place, a humanity